There we go. Hey, good to see everyone. Hi, Paul. T-Dog is back. I'm not sure if T-Dog, are you in the right class?
I believe so. Yes, I signed up today.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Good to see you. I
I
have
don't know why it says I don't know why it says T Dog, but okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I have a feeling that's not your actual name.
Yeah.
Brianna, you have a question before we begin?
Hello, Venerable. Happy New Year. And it's lovely to be here. I realise you are in the middle of a in-depth course, but I've just popped in to visit you for the new year. I've just to be in your energy.
Fantastic. If we could pass some biscuits and tea to you, we would, but you're welcome to stay as long as you like.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Lou also is here
Okay,
visiting.
thank you. So we're going to begin with some prayers, which most of you know, but we'll put up anyway. First, taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, this great verse that was composed supposedly by Atisha. Sangye chudang soki chognam la jangchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunen gipe sognam ki drola panche sangye drupa shok. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. Through the collections I create, through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Sangye churang soki chokdam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunen gipe sognam ki drola panche sangye drupa sho. And then as an aid to create the merit at the beginning to be successful in listening to the teachings, we offer a mandala. By offering this ground that we imagine, like a mandala plate or a hand mudra or just visualized in front of you, offering this ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon, visualized as a Buddha realm. May all migrators enjoy a pure realm. And still with this mudra of the mandala or holding the mandala, we can make a request as we've offered first. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be subdued. Idam Guru Radna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Okay, so this is the beginning of the new year with our first of 8 classes. So we usually, when we begin that, we start with the foundation of good qualities. Um, so we're going to recite this in English and try to do this as a meditation. We won't have a formal meditation after this because I've got some other interesting Dharma things to discuss before we begin the class. So think of this as a meditation, meditating on the words and the meaning, and try to bring up any remembering consciousness you have of those realizations. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect Guru. Kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to him or her is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely on them with great respect. Understanding the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, this auspicious moment. Found only once meaning once in a long, long time. Rebirths in between human rebirths, precious human rebirths in the lower realms, the upper realms, even as humans when we didn't have a life of freedom and endowment, understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble, as transient as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes, and that after death, just like the shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So it's not as though the bad deeds that we've created this lifetime are forgotten or lost at the time of death. They will follow us, just as a shadow follows a body. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So knowing this, we want to try to abandon even the smallest negative actions because they can increase in magnitude if they're left on our mind stream without being purified. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain, those samsaric pleasures, and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for this bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought of renunciation, giving up the happiness of this lifetime, striving for the happiness of nirvana and liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teaching is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. So that means the mindfulness, alertness, and caution used to watch your mind stream so that you don't violate your lay vows if you're taking the lay vows, or your 24-hour vows if you've taken the Mahayana 24 hours vows and so forth. Then, just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, I'm immersed in the sea of samsara, might be better, although it literally sounds like fallen. We've always been here. Just as I am immersed in the sea of samsara, so have all mother migrating beings. Please bless me to see this, to train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migrating beings, migratory beings. If I develop mere bodhicitta, that is not spontaneous bodhicitta, or engaging bodhicitta, just mere bodhicitta, but I don't practice the three types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment by that alone. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the Bodhisattva vows with great effort, to train in the Bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I've pacified distractions to distracting objects, here called wrong objects, and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, meaning emptiness, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the path which unifies calm abiding and special insight, shamatha and vipassana. Having become a pure vessel, first by training in the general path, then please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, gateway to the supreme Vajra vehicle. And at that time, having entered the Vajra vehicle, Vajrayana, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments, is keeping the pure vows and samayas. As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges, samayas, like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the two stages, the generation stage and the completion stage of highest Yoga Tantra, which is the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, that means daily, dividing the day into 4 parts, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus, this is the prayer that I asked Nadine to recite in Colombo at the temple that houses relics of the Buddha's hair. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances, obstacles. And finally, in all my lives, may I never be separated from perfect gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara, Dorji Chang. Okay, thank you. So, hi, Jennifer. Hi, Don. Hi, Karen. It looks like the kids didn't come.
Oh, they're on their way. You'll hear them when they get here.
your grandkids. Yeah, I'm sure we will. Suvash is here also. Good to see you. We have a couple of visitors today. T-Dog is also here. T-Dog, what's your actual name?
It's Terry Reeves.
Hi, Terry. Where are you located?
Lafayette, Louisiana.
Okay, Louisiana. So we have people in Sri Lanka today and in many other places. Okay. So
and Britain for Anna.
Where's Anna? Oh, Anna's in Britain. Are you in Britain, Anna? Oh,
Yes,
too.
Liverpool, UK,
Oh,
and Lou is London, UK.
and Liv, where are you?
Liverpool and London.
The other girl, or Lou, I can't read it.
No, I'm in London.
London, okay.
London.
Liverpool in London. Okay, so we have a good crowd here today. What I'd like to do is ask Doris if she hasn't already to put the PDF that I had prepared from the Mahavastu. Is that up there? It is up there. People can see that. You've got that? So, okay. So this is what we're going to be talking about. So I mentioned that Nadine had recited that particular verse from the Foundation of Good Qualities, asking that the teachers and the practitioners who practice properly the path have long lives. So the practitioners who don't practice properly, those who don't practice the path, who are engaged in evil, is not praying for their long lives. Probably better that they don't have long lives, creating more negative karma, and that to be free of outer and inner obstacles. This was I asked Nadine to recite at the temple in Colombo that housed the relics of the Buddha's hair. So we'll read a little bit of this story, and I'll leave the rest of it. I'll fill in some details. How this hair came to be. So there were 2 merchants just after the Buddha had attained enlightenment and had spent various weeks afterwards doing various things, marveling at the accomplishment, walking around, walking through the 3 realms and so forth. At that point, the Buddha was still near the the place where he had achieved enlightenment in Bodh Gaya. And these two traders were coming apparently from Orissa. Later, they might have ended up living in another place closer to Burma, closer to Bangladesh or something. But they were traveling along with two bullocks who were especially saintly beings. You know what I mean? Bulls that were carrying their goods along with an entourage of people. And they got stuck in the mud and they couldn't get out. The bulls usually were very, very strong. They couldn't get out, and also they seemed to be frightened of something. So the merchants sent some people ahead to check what was wrong, if there was any danger. And they came back and said, "There's no danger. It's just that this magnificent being is ahead, and it would be very auspicious if you came and saw him and made some offerings." So they prepared some rice cakes, I guess, and honey, and some say ghee. They milked some cows that gave milk that was very butter laden, even without being churned. And they offered it to the Buddha. I often think of this kind of honey spread that has some kind of butter in it, so like really nice tasting. So they offered this to the Buddha because he was so magnificent. This was the first offering that the Buddha had received after his enlightenment. He'd received other offerings on the way to enlightenment. You know, the lady, the attendant who had given him the shroud that he wore when he was naked, and was fed when just before he finally sat for enlightenment. But this was the first offering, and the Buddha thought, in the Lalita Vistara version, it says he thought to himself, how did the Buddhas of the past receive offerings? Did they receive it in their hands, or did they receive it in a vessel? And he thought, oh, they received it in a vessel. Finally, the guardians of the four directions offered him, after trying to attempt to offer him golden bowls and silver bowls and jeweled bowls, he said, no, that's unbecoming. They offered very simple stone bowls to him, the guardians of the four directions, and he, with his magic powers, compressed them into one so that no one was going to be jealous that he used the other guy's bowl and not theirs. And he received these offerings. They took refuge in the Buddha, so they were the first disciples of the Buddha. They were two laymen. So the first offering, the first disciples. And then they said, you know, is there any way that you can give us some relic of your hair or something that we can take to share with others? So he put his hand through his hair and took off, it said 8 tufts of hair. Sometimes it says 8 strands of hair, and maybe it means 8 handfuls from the top of his head. And these relics that they received were the only relics that we have. Besides, he supposedly gave some clippings of his nails, but those are supposedly the only relics that were retrieved from the Buddha when he was still alive. You know, once the Buddha had passed away and was cremated, of course, there were many other relics that were shared and put in stupas, but these hair relics were considered to be especially blessed because they were given while the Buddha was alive, and they came from the very topmost part of his head, you know, not from the bottom of his feet or something like that. So then they left, and they did not receive any teachings, but they were the first disciples of the Buddha. They the first ones who took refuge in the Buddha. I think when the Buddha explained, he said, take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, meaning the teachings, and the future Sangha, because the Sangha didn't exist yet, at least in the form of conventional form of the ordained monks. The Arya Sangha, of course, existed. And they later traveled in various places and gave some of the hair in various places. Some of it, they actually went later. One of them became a monk. They were these two traders, the two merchants were actually brothers. And one of them became ordained and studied with the Buddha, became an arhat. The other was a layman, remained a layman, and attained stream enterer. They went after other journeys. They went to Sri Lanka and offered the hair, some of the hair relics to a place there that eventually were enshrined in a monastery in Colombo that Sister Nadine had a chance to visit. It looks like you can't see Sister Nadine now because it's past midnight there in Sri Lanka where she is right now. If you see the gallery view, I'm not sure. So this is a little bit of the story. So for auspiciousness, this is from the Mahavastu, the PDF, and I'm also going to read just a few lines from the Lalita Vistara, which is the Mahayana version of the Buddha's life story. So just for auspiciousness, after he had left the abode of Musalinda, the Naga king, the exalted one, the Buddha, spent the 6th week fasting. This is the 6th week after attaining enlightenment, fasting in joy and ease at the foot of Goatherd's banyan tree. So this is somewhere near the Bodhi tree. When the 6th week at the foot of Goatherd's banyan tree was over, he spent the 7th week fasting in joy and ease at the shrine of many devas in the thicket of Shririka trees. I don't know what those are. The exalted one fasted for 7 weeks or 49 days. So this was just before he met these two merchants. And where there are footnotes there, if you go to the end of the PDF, there's extensive notes if you'd like to learn more about this. In the northern country is a town called Ukala. Now it happened that two merchants of this town, of Ukala, by the name of Trapusha, usually I think it's Trapusha, and Balika, who were rich, wealthy, opulent, virtuous, and possessing many attendants, were coming with 500 loads along that way from the south. Of their luck-bringing oxen, one bull was born under the constellation of Sujata and another under the constellation of Kirika, and they were called Sujata and Kirika as a result of that after the constellations. They went in front of the whole caravan, drawing the leader's wagon. Whenever on the journey there was danger, whether from a lion, tiger, leopards, rhinoceroses, elephant, demon, forest, flood, or brigand, the bulls would refuse that way, to go that way, so protecting the merchants. The merchants thus knew that there was danger there if they were to stop, refuse to go, and they would come together and go scouting in all directions. Now the bulls came to the thicket, and there is this thicket of Carisha trees where they were stopped by the magic power of the dead relatives of the traders, these two brothers, Trapusha and Balika, who would become devas. So there were some spirits there that were relatives of these two boys, these two men, young men. They could not go on. When they stopped, all the men of the caravan became frightened and ready to fight. Figured there might be brigands or someone, people wanting to steal from them. But the relations who had become devas, standing in the air, raised a shout and made their voice heard. "Traitors!" cried they. "Be not afraid. No danger threatens you. But the exalted one, the Buddha, abides in the wood here, having appeared after a period of 7 incalculable kalpas for the welfare and happiness of mankind, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit and welfare of a great multitude of devas and men. And he has been fasting 7 weeks or 49 days. Serve him with food. Thus, your root of merit will be infinite. So when it mentions 7 incalculable kalpas or eons, that must be a particular Theravada tenet. Usually in the Mahayana, we say, generally in the Theravada also, the Vaibhashika, they say that the Buddha collected merit for, practiced the path for 3 countless great eons. So this, here it says 7, I'm not sure why. On hearing the words of the Devas, the traders, these 2 brothers, brought refreshment of honey mixed with ghee, and the Devas went in front of the traders, saying, "Come this way." Thus the traders were led by the Devas to the presence of the Buddha, the Exalted One. The traders, taking with them the refreshment, approached the Exalted One and said to him, "We pray thee, Lord, eat of this refreshment of honey as a favor to us, to bless us." But then the thought occurred to the Exalted One. The Buddha is omniscient. He knows everything, but in the narratives, it always sounds like he has to think about it. Now, how did the perfect Buddhas of yore, of the past, receive food? Did they receive food in their bowls or in their hands? They took it in bowls, he thought. As soon as this thought occurred to the Exalted One, the 4 guardians of the world came bearing golden bowls and went up to him. But the Exalted One, on the score that bowls of precious metals were not suitable for a recluse, would not accept them. So then they tried to offer silver and other kinds of bowls, precious substances, bowls made of pearl, beryl, crystal, white coral, so forth, but he would not accept them. Finally, they came to the Exalted One bringing bowls of stone. Then the thought occurred to the Exalted One, to the Buddha, if I accept a bowl of one guardian of the world, misgivings will arise in the hearts of the other 3. So the Exalted One accepted all 4 bowls of the 4 guardians. He touched them with his thumb, and they became one bowl. But though the 4 bowls were thus become one bowl, 4 kotis of replicas of the 4 bowls were to be seen. So you know what a koti is? What's a koti, Paul?
I'm trying to, is it 10 million?
Might be 10 million, something like that. It's a Sanskrit term when we're talking in the Prajnaparamita Sutras, other sutras, these large numbers come up. Thus the Exalted One partook of the refreshment of honey given to him by the traders Trapusha and Balika. When the Exalted One had drunk the refreshment that had been given to him, and which was choice and exquisite, having good color, smell, taste, he pronounced a blessing on them. And there's many verses of blessings. Finally, then the Exalted One gave them 3 resorts of refuge. He gave them the triple refuge. Come, he said, to the refuge of the Buddha, to the refuge of the Dharma, to the future refuge of the Exalted One's community of disciples. Remember, I mentioned at the beginning, the official conventional Sangha did not exist. But as you know, Sangha generally means any Arya beings. They already existed, but it was for lay people to take refuge in the conventional Sangha, the 4 bhikshus at least, or so forth. And so they came to the refuge of the Buddha, of the Dharma, and of the Sangha. Then they said, "We, Lord, are traders who range over many a country and kingdom. Well would it be if the Exalted One were to give us a relic which we could worship." With his own hand, the Exalted One cut off some of the hair, or pulled out some of the hair on his head, and gave it to them, saying, "Have a tope made from this hair." Who's good in Old English? What is a tope?
I think that's the translation of stupa.
Right. I'm not sure if that's an English word or if it's a.
I think it's derived from the Pali.
Yeah. So what does it say? Have a tope, so a stupa made for this hair. He then cut his nails and gave them parings, saying, "Have a tope made from my nails. Stones will be provided you and do you set them up? So he erected a tope for their hair. So they erected a tope for her hair where the place named, so what is it, Keshash-Talin is now. They erected a tope for his nails where the town name Valuksha is now. At the place named Seluksha, they set up stones with the Exalted One by his power had thrown there by his hands. Then the Exalted One, after his fast of 7 weeks, so this was just before they gave him this refreshment. He had fasted for 49 days. After that was at the 7th week, finishing the 7th week after his enlightenment. Then he drank the refreshing drink of honey given by Trapusha and Balika. But then the bilious humor of the Exalted One overflowed. I'm not sure what that means. The Chakra Lord of the Devas offered the Exalted One, oh, yes, the fruit of the Mirobalan tree, which Nadine, on her visit to Kandy to see the Temple of the Tooth, which she hasn't yet finished the journey yet, she went to an Ayurveda establishment and brought back some Mirobalan. I think, is that right, Nadine? Did you get some Mirobalan fruit?
Yes, that's right. They are sold here very cheaply, and they taste deliciously. And
It's
yes,
supposed to be,
Aurora, Merobalan.
yeah, Mirobalan. So the gods, so the Buddha had some kind of gastric upset. So the gods, Chakra, the Lord of the Devas, offered the Buddha the fruit of the Mirobalan tree, which is the king of fruits, saying that it would ease the humors. The Exalted One partook of the Mirobalan and planted the stalk in that spot. And on that very same day, it grew into a big Mirobalan tree with wide spreading branches, laden with flowers and fruit. This was the first of the trees that grew by the magic power of the Exalted One. This was another first that I forgot to mention before. The Mirobalams which grew from this tree are today known as the consecrated Mirobalan wood. Okay, I just wanted to read that for you and to mention that Nadine, our class member who's on pilgrimage there in Sri Lanka, actually visited that temple and made prayers for our class and for us to have long lives and to be free of inner and outer obstacles. So that should have some power. Okay. So Gomba Rapso is the text that we've been studying in great detail. And before we begin, any questions about that are still remaining in your minds about the study that we're doing, or other peripheral Dharma questions before we begin? How are we doing? Jennifer, it's good to see you. How's your dad? Still
Um,
holding on?
yeah, his mind is not so good. His body may be a little bit better. So it's definitely a practice of patience, but it is what it is.
How old is your dad?
87.
87. Okay. Nice long life so far. Okay. So we're going to begin in Thupten Jinpa's text with and I'm not sure, maybe Nadine, can you remind me which page this is in the text starts, in contrast, given that the Buddhas have thoroughly comprehended or directly realized the aspects of both the ultimate and conventional truths of all phenomena, for them, the turnings of conceptualizing mind and mental factors have come to cease permanently. Doris, did you say what page that is in Thupten Jinpa's text?
245, Venerable.
245. In Hopkins' text, this is 252. His translation a little bit different. And just to go over that, we'll just go the previous paragraph to review, because we just read that last time. So it says in Jimpa's translation, I'm not sure. Diana, were you able to find that section? Do you know the section we're at? If you search for in
Thank you. I'm going to be attending the rest of the class later.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I just wanted, because sometimes you had asked to know that. Okay.
Very kind.
So the paragraph before that says, since Aryas who have yet to attain Buddhahood have still not eliminated ignorance belonging to the class of obscurations of knowledge, the two states, that is post-meditative, post-equipoise states, sometimes we say post-meditation, states characterized by dualistic conceptual thoughts and meditative equipoise devoid of dualistic perceptions will occur intermittently or alternately. So does that make sense? We just finished with that last time. Suvansh, what do you think? Does that make sense? Suvansh Kapoor?
Venerable George, I'm catching up. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
catching up.
No, okay. Catch up. Don, does that make sense? Don Isaacson? What is that saying?
I think so. I think they're talking about subsequent attainment after meditation and seeing things that still appear as inherently existent, but you know that they don't.
Yeah, so it says Aryas who have yet to attain Buddhahood. So why does it say it like that? Why not just say Aryas? Because the Buddha is an Arya. We say the Arya Buddha. So Aryas who are not the Buddha, who have yet to attain Buddhahood, have still not eliminated ignorance belonging to the class of obscurations of knowledge. So they haven't eliminated the obstructions to omniscience, right? Once they've eliminated the obstructions to omniscience, they will become Buddha. So there's still, because of that, the two states of post-meditation where things appear to be inherently existent and the state of actual meditative equipoise on emptiness when there is no appearance of inherent existence, they alternate. They can't see conventional phenomena and emptiness directly at the same time. They have to alternate. If they want to see emptiness directly, they have to go into meditative equipoise. When they rise from meditative equipoise, they're not perceiving emptiness directly any longer. They have a remembering consciousness of it, and so forth. That's more or less the background here. So then the beginning today, in contrast to that, those Aryas who are not Buddha, given that the Buddhas have thoroughly comprehended, or in other words, directly realized the aspects of both the ultimate and conventional truths of all phenomena, and one could say from the Mahayana point of view, simultaneously. They've realized both the ultimate and conventional truths of all phenomena, all the aspects of them, color, shape, different kinds of qualities. They know all of them directly, simultaneously. For them, for the Buddhas, all turnings of conceptualizing mind and mental factors have come to cease permanently. So Hopkins' translation says, Buddhas, on the other hand, have completely, that is to say, entirely become enlightened. That is, they have realized actualization of the ultimate and conventional aspects of all phenomena. Hence, all movements of conceptual minds and mental factors have utterly vanished. So what Jimpa says, what does he call it here? Turnings of conceptualizing mind and mental factors have come to cease permanently. Hopkins has, I think, more literally Hence, all movements of conceptual minds and mental factors have utterly vanished. So this sometimes is difficult for translators to, other people have translated it. When you talk about the movement of the mind, let's see, what is this? Semjung Di Nam, all these mental factors and minds, Toki Gyua. So Gyua means movement generally. And so it means that, for instance, one way to understand this is bringing some ideas from Tantra, that all the minds are mounted on winds. The winds act as the mount, like the horse that moves the mind from one object to another. So for the Buddha, there's no longer movement of those winds like that. The Buddha's mind is completely stable, spread out throughout all of the multitude of universes and so forth. So let's see. So that was that first part. All turnings of conceptualizing mind and mental factors have come to cease permanently. And then Jimpa has a note there. So what does his note say? I think he's just pointing out note 451. This is a gloss on the following important sentence from the commentary. So the commentary means Chandrakirti's auto commentary, right? So that means that Lama Tsong Khapa is not using the exact words, he's using a gloss of that. What does that mean? What is a gloss, Stephen? Do you know?
Well, it's kind of a summary or a rendering in someone's own words of another section of a text.
Yeah, I think that's how I understand it also. So this is a gloss of the following important sentence from the commentary. Quote, as for the Buddhas, given that they have thoroughly comprehended and realized the nature of all phenomena, we maintain that all turnings of the mind or all movement of the mind and mental factors have come to cease permanently. Okay, so that doesn't really add much. So then the commentary continues. Buddhas, therefore, have no intermittent or alternating meditative equipoise and post-equipoise states involving conceptual thoughts characterized by dualistic perceptions. So the Buddha's mind is always in meditative equipoise on emptiness, while simultaneously realizing all conventional phenomena. And we've touched upon that a little bit in the past when we say from the perspective of the Buddha's omniscient mind realizing emptiness, there are no appearances of conventionalities at all. From the perspective of the Buddha's mind realizing conventionalities, there is no appearance of emptiness. But the Buddha's mind is knowing both of them simultaneously. Buddhas therefore have no intermittent or alternating meditative equipoise and post-meditative equipoise. So for the other Aryas who've realized emptiness directly but are not yet Buddha, they have to alternate when they're in meditative equipoise. There's no appearance of conventionalities, and they don't have any access to that. And post-meditation, there's only the direct realization of conventional truths. There's no direct realization of emptiness. They still have that realization within the imprints in their mind, but they're not actualizing it right then. So the term permanently, when it said that the Buddhas have permanently eliminated these, I can't remember this exact place. The term permanently indicates that the ceasing of dualistic perceptions for the other Aryas during their meditative equipoise is only intermittent, is only alternates. So that means the ceasing of dualistic perceptions. When do they cease dualistic perceptions? When they're in meditative equipoise on emptiness, right? Making sense? Okay, couple of nods. Anyone going this way? Okay, I can't tell. I can't see. What is it? Lou, is it making sense? You have green Tara over your shoulder. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so let's continue. Jimpa's translation continues. Because of this, meditative equipoise and post-equipoise states occur sequentially for them, for Aryas who are not yet Buddha. The rationale, quote, because they experience ignorance that belongs to the class of obscurations of knowledge, unquote, that was given earlier, that was stated in the commentary, that is not a reason to demonstrate that the Aryas possess dualistic perceptions. It is an explanation to substantiate the point that for them, the absence and presence of dualistic perceptions alternate in line with periods of equipoise and post-equipoise. So you might, if you think about that, you might have a doubt, because it sounds like it is a reason to demonstrate that the Aryas possess dualistic perceptions in post-meditation, right? Because they experience ignorance that belongs to the class of obscurations of knowledge. Who can explain what that means? Suvash, you said you're catching up. Paul, can you explain what that means?
Say it again, please, Venerable George.
Quote, because they experience ignorance that belongs to the class of obscurations of knowledge, obscurations to knowledge, unquote. Because they experience ignorance that what is the ignorance that belongs to the class of obscurations to knowledge?
Well, if they are on the pure grounds, it's non-afflictive ignorance, right?
Right.
Which would simply be what the sort of residual propensities, I guess, or the stains, I guess it is, for conceptual thought, or something like that. I'm forgetting. Sorry.
Okay, so generally, when we talk about ignorance is an affliction, right? But because of the Theravada using certain kind of terminology, also here in the Mahayana, they talk about non-afflictive ignorance also. So what is non-afflictive ignorance? That would be something that still remains once you've an ignorance that still remains once you've eliminated the afflictions. So once you become a Buddha, once you become an Arhat, or that you had reached the pure grounds where you had eliminated from the root all the afflictions, there's still some kind of hindrance that prevents you from seeing things, seeing all phenomena, for instance. Those are called obstructions to omniscience, but they're also characterized as non-afflictive ignorance. The obstructions to omniscience are also called non-afflictive ignorance. Shankar, what do you think?
So that would still mean that in post equipoise they would have dualistic perceptions, no?
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. Because I thought that you meant that no, never mind then, I misunderstood.
Right. So what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying here is that the fact that they have, because they experience this non-afflictive ignorance, there's that ignorance that belongs to the class of obscurations to knowledge. So that is another way of naming that is non-afflictive ignorance. It just means the obstructions to omniscience, the part of the obstructions to omniscience that function like ignorance, that prevent you from seeing all phenomena simultaneously, for instance. So he says that statement, because they have that non-afflictive ignorance, that's not a reason to demonstrate that the Aryas possess dualistic perceptions. You would think it would be, right? The fact that they have that those Aryas, those particular Aryas, meaning the three kinds of persons, the Aryas, remember where they're the hearer Arhats, the solitary realizer Arhats, and the Bodhisattvas on the pure grounds, the 8th, 9th, and 10th bhumis. They still have, they had before the non-afflictive ignorance, but now that's all the ignorance that they have left, this non-afflictive ignorance, the obstructions to omniscience, in other words. And because of that, you would think that that would be a reason, one might argue, that would be a reason why they still, in post-meditation, have dualistic perceptions. They still see phenomena appearing to be inherently existent. But he says it's not it's not a reason to demonstrate that. It is an explanation to substantiate the point that for them, those three kinds of beings, the absence and presence of dualistic perceptions alternate in line with periods of equipoise and post-equipoise. So it's something to think about. And maybe on Monday, if you thought about it, we can discuss a little bit more. You might think, that makes sense. Okay. So then the text continues. The turnings of the mind and mental factors, or the movement of the mind and mental factors, which is maybe to me makes more sense than turnings of the mind. I'm not sure turnings of the mind. The movement of the mind and mental factors, quote unquote, is to be understood in terms of conceptualizing thoughts. So the movement of mind and mental factors. So for instance, in terms of Tantra, when you have eliminated all conceptualizing mind, what has happened with the winds within the body? Do you know, Snehi?
Is that when they enter the central channel?
Yeah. So when the ordinary state are the winds that act as support for our conceptualizing minds are in the, 72,000 different numbers, nadis throughout our body, when you bring the air, so at the time of death, when all of the airs, all the prana absorbs to the central channel at the heart chakra, all of those conceptualizing minds stop, and you have the ability to experience the clear light and so forth. So something like that. The movement of the mind and mental factors is to be understood in terms of conceptualizing thoughts. So once there's no longer movement of those winds in the 72,000 nadis, they've entered into the central channel. There's no more conceptualizing mind. So the Buddha does not have any kinds of conceptions. The Buddha does not think about anything other than you might, let's see, what did Jeff, yeah, she's so, but made some comment here. No, maybe it was another place. So you can talk about the Buddha thinking this or that, or like in the Mahavastu passage we read earlier, the Buddha was thinking, how did the Buddhas of the past receive offerings in their hands or in bowls? That's just figuratively speaking. The Buddha has no conceptualizing mind. The Buddha just acts spontaneously. So the turnings of the mind and mental factors, the movement of mind and mental factors is to be understood in terms of conceptualizing thoughts. For example, clear words, the clearly worded, the prasanapada, says conceptualizing processes constitute the turnings of the mind or the movement of the mind. Or you can put it the other way. The movement of the mind constitutes conceptualizing processes. Because suchness is devoid of this. What is suchness? Do you know, Anna, what suchness is?
Direct realization of emptiness.
Oh, okay. There's two Annas. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, good. I got okay. I was looking at the Anna in England, but that's good. Yeah, Anna is good. Yeah, it means emptiness, suchness, because suchness is devoid of this. What does that mean? It is absent of conceptualization. It says in a sutra, and this is quoting from the Prasanapada. So what is the Prasanapada? Remember, it's a commentary by Chandrakirti on Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom. It's the word commentary going through every verse of Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom. So it says in a sutra, for example, and this sutra, I think, is the Akshayamati Nirdesa. What is the ultimate truth? That for which, if there were no turnings of the mind, no movement of the mind, what need is there at all then to speak of the words? Let's see how Jeffrey translates that paragraph. So Jeffrey translated that if conceptuality is the movement of the mind, due to being devoid of it, being devoid of conceptuality and movement of the mind, suchness is non-conceptual. It's a little bit enigmatic. What do you think that means? Louise, what do you think what does that sound like that means?
In emptiness, emptiness is void of all things. So of course no, sorry, it ties to that. Could you repeat? Sorry, but I know it ties to that lack of inherent existence.
So we just read Jimpa's translation, but it says, if conceptuality is the movement of the mind, due to being devoid of it, being devoid of conceptuality and movement of the mind, suchness is non-conceptual. It almost sounds like suchness is a subject that is non-conceptual.
It's
Sounds like that.
It's reifying. Sorry.
So, Stephen, how do you take that? What do you understand that to mean?
So it's absent of conceptualization, so it's a direct perception.
So emptiness itself, when we say conceptualization, that's always a function of the mind, right? But suchness is not the mind. So when it says suchness is non-conceptual, it's a little bit enigmatic. Paul, what do you take that to mean?
Well, simply that in the meditative state in which you are perceiving emptiness, there is no conceptuality. It's a non-conceptual perception.
When you have actually perceiving emptiness, you can perceive it conceptually.
Sure.
Have a direct realization.
Directly, yeah, when you're having a direct realization.
Almost sounds like it needs some additional words there to explain the context. And then Hopkins' translation says, Sutra says, and Jimpa's note was that the sutra is from the Akshayamati, teachings of Akshayamati Nirdesa. Is that a good translation, Paul? Nirdesa for teachings, or is it requested by?
Yeah, well, desha means to teach. Nirdesh, I think, also is usually translated as teaching. But it's probably the teaching to Akshayamati.
Right. So Jimpa says the teachings of Akshayamati. I think it's more or less the teachings to Akshayamati. So this is a very famous sutra, a Mahayana sutra. So there the sutra quotation, the way that that Hopkins translates is, what is ultimate truth? it is without even the movement of the mind, what need is there to mention letters or words? So what's that talking about? KT, what do you think? Are you following?
I'm just thinking, I'm kind of going to the Heart Sutra when in the homage when the perfection of wisdom is inexpressible by words and thoughts. That's
Right.
where I was going there with this.
Good connection, yeah. So here it's saying that what is ultimate truth? It is without even the movement of the mind. So that would seem to be implying that ultimate truth, actual ultimate truth, to realize it, you have a state in which there's no conceptualization at all. You are realizing it barely, directly, right? What need is there to mention letters? So when we talk about emptiness, just as KT was alluding to, can emptiness be realized with the conceptual mind? Yes. Can emptiness be realized as it actually is by the conceptual mind? Okay, good. Snehi and Stephen are vigorously shaking their heads. So it can't be, in Shantideva's text, when he talks about emptiness, selflessness is not an object of mind. It means not an object of direct experience of the conceptualizing mind. It's the conceptualizing mind can have a mental image of emptiness and can authentically, validly realize emptiness, but it is not a direct experience of it. It's not like the taste of the sugar cane. It's just like of the sugar cane juice. It's like the taste of the bark. When you Nadine, have you had any sugar cane in Sri Lanka since you've been there?
Not only brown sugar.
Oh, okay. The next time you go to Kandy, if you stop for sugar cane, they have these machines. They also in India, Stehi, they big sugar canes they put through. So that tastes much different than just chewing on the bark of the sugar cane, which is not like the authentic taste. That's kind of like chewing the bark is like the conceptual understanding of emptiness. Tasting the actual sugarcane juice is like the direct perception. Then you can say what you've experienced, what the taste of it is. And in the same way, emptiness cannot be expressed by words. We have that famous verse that we talked about in previous courses that was sometimes attributed to Rahula, Masam Jome, Shera Parochin. Do you know that verse, Paul? Masam Jome, Shera Parochin. So the perfection of wisdom, ma sam jome. There are three things there. Ma means expressed. It cannot be expressed. Jome means is a different version of that, is inexpressible. Masam cannot be thought. So the masam means is talking about the thing. There's the actual experience of emptiness is not something you can think about. It cannot be experienced by thought, by conceptualizing thought, nor can it be explained in words. Although the words can point you toward the realization of emptiness, you can never express emptiness the way it is with words. Like if you try to say how some person what their appearance is like. You say they're tall, they're thin, they're dark complexion, they have hair on their face, or they're not, or whatever. You can get a general image of that, but that's much different than actually seeing the person, having a direct perception of that person. So that's, I think, what's being talked about there. Okay. So let's see. So that finishes that section. What need is there to speak of words? What is the ultimate truth? That for which there are no turnings of the mind. What need is there at all to speak of words? Or as Hopkins translated, Sutra says, what is ultimate truth? It is without even the movement of the mind. What need is there to mention letters or words? Okay. Snehi, what do you think? You want to remind me about taking a break?
Exactly.
Okay. Let's take a short break. If you need to go to the bathroom, there we go. So people just coming back from a little break. I've said my memory is so bad. T-Dog, are you back yet? T-Dog, what was T-Dog's actual name? T-Dog 6?
Terry.
Harry. Harry, you back? Okay, he's off still. Okay. So now we finished one section and we're about to begin this next outline. In Jimpa's text, he has how the ultimate and conventional become as such from the perspective of ordinary beings and Aryas. Hopkins' translation of that on page 253, he has also bigger letters, so you can see that's a new outline. How there come to be ultimates and conventionalities relative to superiors and common beings. Almost this, again, sometimes doesn't make you have to sort of look at it and think about it, what's actually talking about. Okay, so let's read what Jimpa's translation has from Gompa Rapsal. So Gompa Rapsal now is quoting the Majjhimaka Vatara Bhasham again. This is the commentary. The commentary says, that which is the ultimate for ordinary beings is merely conventional for those Aryas who, he has in brackets, still possess the sphere of experience within which dualistic perceptions remain. He's chuckling a little. Even Chandrakirti sometimes a bit wordy. Emptiness, the nature of these merely conventional entities, is the ultimate truth for them. Who is them in that sentence? Jennifer, do you know?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Emptiness, the nature.
So this is a quotation from the Bhasham now. Lama Tsongkhapa is quoting it. That which is the ultimate for ordinary beings is merely conventional for those Aryas who possess the sphere of experience, the sphere of experience within which dualistic perceptions remain.
So that would be the, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, those would be the Aryas from the 8th to 10th Bhumis then?
Emptiness, the nature of these is the ultimate truth for them. Yeah, meaning the three types of beings, the arhats, the two kinds of arhats, the Shravaka and Pratika Buddha arhats, and the bodhisattvas on the pure grounds. So there's lots of different individuals there. So what is that saying? That which is the ultimate for ordinary beings is merely conventional for those Aryas.
Why would that only be for those three? Would not that apply to the first ground bodhisattvas as well?
Okay, good thinking. Okay. That which is the ultimate for ordinary beings. So what does that mean? That which is the ultimate for ordinary beings. So what is the ultimate for ordinary beings? Here you could take ordinary beings to be those beings who have not realized emptiness at all. So what is ultimate for them is the way things appear to their conventional minds, the way they think about things. That's the way it is. Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily, if you go into a bar room in Chicago and you say, is this beer ultimately real? No one's going to use that terminology, right? But For them, that is an ultimate truth. That's the way things are, the way that they appear. We even enshrined that in laser printers at the earlier era. You know what I'm talking about, Paul? What you see is what you get. You know, that's it. There's some acronym for that. You know,
WYSIWYG.
So you know, that's the way it is. So that which is the ultimate for ordinary beings, which is, you know, appearing things that appear to be inherently existent. That's true for them. That's ultimate reality for them. Is merely that for the Aryas that still possess the sphere of experience within which dualistic perceptions remain. For them, that's merely conventional. So Sean has a little bit of doubt about that. First of all, let's just read further. Emptiness, the nature of these merely conventional entities, is the ultimate truth for them. So for ordinary beings, ultimate truth is what appears to their conventional minds. That's, you know, that's ultimate truth. That's the way things are. For the Aryas who are not yet Buddhas, so they still possess the sphere of experience within which dualistic perceptions remain. That means in post-meditation, they still have dualistic perceptions. Here, dualistic perceptions, remember we've talked about this before, here dualistic perceptions just means that phenomena appear to be inherently existent, whereas they are not inherently existent, lacking that dualism. Emptiness, the nature of these merely conventional entities, is the ultimate truth for them. Is that making sense now? No one's nodding assiduously. Okay, so let me read how Jeffrey translates that. He says, Chandrakirti says, regarding this, those which are ultimates, and Jippa had just translated that which is ultimate. Yeah, you could take it either way. Jeffrey's just taking it plural. Regarding this, those which are ultimates for common beings are mere conventionalities for superiors, acting on objects involving appearance outside of meditative equipoise. That which is the nature of those objects, those conventional objects that appear in post-meditation, the nature of them, emptiness, that is the ultimate for those Aryas. Okay, so is this talking about what I had implied earlier? Is this talking about the Aryas and the pure grounds and the three types of beings, the Hinayana Arhats, or is this talking about all Aryas, as Sean is saying?
Well, even someone that isn't an Arya that's meditating on emptiness is not going to see the ultimate the same as an ordinary person.
Right. But they will have instances, if you have not eliminated grasping to true existence, there will still be within your experiences moments when your mind is grasping at something as real.
But that's not what it's talking about here,
Well,
is it?
maybe. Do you agree with that? If you have not eliminated all of the afflictions, there will still be some moments in your continuum, even though you might know generally you're not grasping to things as truly existent, there will be some moments when some subtle mind is grasping at that as real. That means that it is ultimate. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I don't know if I followed that last part, but
So for beings that have not eliminated all the afflictions, there's still some affliction grasping to true existence, whether it be subtle or not, is still existing within their continuum, even if they are ordinary Aryas. right? They're not the Aryas on the of the Bodhisattvas on the pure grounds, for instance, or the Hinayana Arhats. There still be some grasping, so that there will be moments when something is perceived as existing the way that it appears. You'll be grasping to it. You will be grasping it to as an ultimate truth. That's the way it is. That's what I was saying. Let me just read a little bit. So let's go further with the. Let me read to you what Geshe Zopa said on July 19th, 2002. Wow, already almost 23 years, almost 23 years, right? Somewhere 22 years ago. So Geshe said, Deni means dekonani. So here, Jeffrey had translated that is those which are ultimates for, Jimpa had translated that as what? That which is the ultimate for ordinary beings is merely conventional for those Aryas who still possess the sphere of experience. So the Tibetan has Dela here, or regarding this, Soso Kewo Namgi Don Dampa Gangyimpa Deni Te. So Geshe said, Deni means dekonani. For ordinary individual, Deni means ultimate. That means phenomenal things, conventional things, are real. There is nothing wrong for ordinary beings. There's nothing wrong. That's ultimate. That's the way things are. For them, things look like Dondampa Dekonani as they appear. They seem to be ultimate suchness. But those are, to the Aryas who understand shunyata, they're only fake. They are only conventional. They're only conventionalities. One translates it as they are conventionalities. Jimpa translates it as what does he say? They are merely conventional, right? But those are, to the Aryas who understand shunyata, just only fake. They are only conventional. Therefore, that is probably saying, and then later it says, De rangshin tongbani gangyimpa deni. So that's in that quotation. The nature of phenomenal things, when Geshe talked about phenomenal things, is meaning conventionalities. The nature of conventionalities, let's say, empty of being as they appear to ordinary individual. That kind of emptiness is what is being talked about, what is perceived by the Aryas. Okay, so let's read now the commentary to that in Lama Tsongkhapa's text. Jimpa's translation reads, the meaning of the first part of this. So Lama Tsongkhapa is explaining this excerpt from the Basham, from the Majjhimakavatara Basham. The meaning of the first part is phenomena such as vases, or if you prefer, vases. Can we have a show of hands? Vases? Oh, couple. Vases? Okay. Okay. The meaning of this first part is this: phenomena such as vases, which ordinary beings grasp as possessing ultimate existence, right? They grasp them as being ultimately existent, truly existent. They remain merely conventional for the three classes of Aryas referred to above. So here in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, he's saying that the Aryas that are referred to in that section are not just any of the Aryas, that they are the three classes of Aryas that we talked about before, right? Those three classes of Aryas who experience dualistic perceptions in post-meditative states, post-equipoise states after arising from meditative equipoise on emptiness. Thus, Chandrakirti's statement, that first part of that, negates such phenomena to be true for these beings. So for Arya beings, in general, there are moments when they are conceived of as true. But for the three types of Aryas that we're talking about here, the Bodhisattvas and the pure bhumis and the two kinds of Hinayana Arhats, they have no grasping at all. So for them, conventionalities are not true ever. That's what it's talking about. Thus, Chandrakirti's statement negates such phenomena to be true for these beings. So for these three types of beings, conventionalities are not true. Hopkins' translation, with respect to the meaning of the former sentence, that means the first part of this quotation, it indicates that just those pots and so forth. So Bumba can be translated as vase or vase, if you like, or it could be just translated as pot. What's another way it can be translated? Do you know? Paul, what's another way they translate? What's the Sanskrit for Bumba? Anyway, it's very, very standard kind of thing. So you can say bowl or cup. It doesn't have to be vase. Here, Jeffrey translated it as pot. With respect to the meaning of the former sentence, it indicates that just those pots and so forth that are held by common beings to be ultimately established, ultimately existent, they are mere conventionalities for the three types of superiors described earlier, who, having risen from meditative equipoise, are in states of subsequent attainment that involve appearances. So that's pretty clear. When it says pots and so forth, this is pots or bumpas, just an example. Trees, dogs, your Subaru car, your Cadillac, whatever you drive, your nose, all phenomena that appear conventionally for them, for the Aryas on the pure grounds and so forth, these three kinds of beings, they are not true. They are false. What is that? Ultimate are mere convention. No, so they are mere conventionalities for the three types of superiors described earlier. Okay, they are mere conventionalities. They are also false for them. In other words, they are not true, but that comes in the subsequent explanation here. So let's go back to what Jimpa was translating. Thus, Chandrakirti's statement negates such phenomena to be true for these beings. It does not negate these to be conventional truths for them. So conventionalities that appear in post-meditation for the three types of Aryas, in post-meditation, when they arise, what appears to them are not, what appears to them they do not perceive as being true. They know that they are false, but that does not negate these conventional things to be conventional truths for them. So this was a basis of some argument by the scholars at earlier times. Do these three types of Aryas consider these conventionalities to be conventional truths? Yes, they know that they're conventional truths. What is another way of parsing conventional truth, Stephen?
Well, it's a conventional truth, but you know that it's lacking inherent existence. So
Yeah,
that's the special. Go ahead.
Another way of parsing it is, let's say, truth for an obscuring mind, right? Kunsop Demba. Kunsop Demba, or what is it? Samvriti Satya, Remember, we talked earlier, samvriti had these three kinds of meanings. One means obscuring. So as Jeffrey had coined this phrase, truth for a jerk. So conventional truths, they still know these things as conventional truths. This is truth for a jerk, right? They know that. So it does, the fact that they know that these are false, that how to say, that complements the fact that they know that these are conventional truths. It doesn't negate that these are conventional truths. It does not negate these conventionalities to be conventional truths for them. And it also does not suggest that, oh, so here, another, it does not suggest that the conceived objects of ordinary beings who grasp vases and so on as having ultimate existence become conventional for the Aryas. Such conceived objects have no existence at all. Can you explain that, Jennifer? What does that mean?
So the conceived object.
So the second part, it does. Go on.
So for the three classes of Aryas, that the conventions, I mean, they just don't exist on an ultimate level, but that they perceive them as just the mere convention.
Okay, let's see what it's saying here. It also does not suggest that the conceived object of ordinary beings who grasp vases and so on as having ultimate existence. So what is the conceived object of ordinary beings? So ordinary beings see vases, cups, whatever you want to have, pots, as being truly existent, as ultimately existent. When it's talking about the conceived object, what is the conceived object of them? Is that something that takes place in their eye consciousness?
The mental consciousness.
It only takes place in the mental consciousness because conceived objects talking about the object that you're thinking about, right? So you have a mental image. You've seen the vase, let's say, or you've seen the pot, and then you think simultaneously you're thinking about it. You have conceptions about it, but that conceptual thought is mitigated by the mental image. You're not when you have a conceptual thought of the pot, you're not perceiving the pot directly. You're perceiving the pot via the mental image of the pot, right? What's in that scenario? What is the conceived object, Don? You're unmuted.
For an ordinary being, I guess it's a inherently existent vase.
Yeah. What's appearing to them, the mental image, whatever that is, what they're conceiving of, that what they think is out there, actually, what they're conceiving of, the conceived object, is a inherently existent vase, or a truly existent vase, or an ultimately existent vase. So it does not suggest that the conceived objects of ordinary beings who grasp vases and so forth as having ultimate existence. So what's that conceived object? That's an ultimately existent vase. That this statement did not suggest, as Chimpa says, that conceived object, ultimately existent vase, becomes conventional for the Aryas. Why not? If something is a conventionality, does it have to exist? No? Snehi, conventionalities don't have to exist?
The way I'm understanding this is he's saying that for ordinary beings, what they understand to be conventional is something that inherently exists for them. And for an Arya being, nothing has inherent or ultimate existence, so it doesn't exist for them. That conventionality doesn't exist for an Arya being. because they don't see anything as, or conceive of anything as being ultimate, as having ultimate existence.
Okay. So the conceived object of ordinary beings who grasp vases and so on as having ultimate existence become conventional for the Aryas. It is not that. It doesn't suggest that. It doesn't suggest that the conceived object of ordinary beings becomes conventional for the Aryas, these three kinds of Aryas. Why not? Because the conceived object of ordinary beings doesn't exist at all, right? That doesn't exist at all. What is a conceived object? An ultimately existent vase. Does an ultimately existent vase exist? To use my favorite Italian mudra, one of my favorites, it doesn't exist at all. Therefore, it doesn't become a conventionality for the Aryas. So Snehi had a little doubt about that. Let's read how Jeffrey translates that. Let's see how he says. Therefore, Chandrakirti is only eliminating that pots and so forth are truths in their perspective. He is not eliminating that these are obscurational truths in their perspective. Also, he is not indicating that the conceived object of ordinary objects of common beings, misapprehension of pots and so forth as being ultimately established are conventionalities for the superiors, because such does not occur. That is, ultimately established pots and so forth do not exist. So for something to be a conventionality, does it have to exist? Snehi was saying it didn't have to exist for something to be a conventionality. Oh, everyone's sort of like the deers with the headlights of the car. I see. What's happening? If something is a conventionality, how are conventionalities established?
Yes, George, they exist. They're established by the consciousness that apprehends them, but they're not ultimately existent.
Right. So, but conventionalities have to exist, right? So
because otherwise it would be nihilism, right?
Right. So, so the ordinary being's conceived object, when they see a vase and then they're thinking about it and they have the conceptual mind that thinks, yeah, that's ultimately existent, or is grasping at that. It doesn't have to verbally say that's ultimately existent. That conceived object doesn't exist. So that conceived object doesn't become a conventionality for these three kinds of Aryas. That's what's being said here. Making some sense? Suvansh, you following? Suvansh?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on. Okay. Nothing. Okay.
What about in the case of like the horns of a rabbit? I mean, that's a concept. The concept of it exists, but the
Right.
object doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. So we can go back to the horns of a rabbit or the son of a barren woman, sky flower, or all these other analogies. A mind that conceives of the horns of a rabbit, that definitely exists. There are some people who have that conception, but the conceived object of that does not exist, right? You have the thought, the mental image. Maybe you have an image of some rabbit with horns on it, and you're thinking that there's something out there that corresponds to that image. That's your conceived object. That does not exist. The mental image can exist, and the conception of that can exist, but the conceived object, the thing that you're imagining, the imagined object does not exist. Okay. Now, let me read you a little, some from Jeff, Geshe Zopa said on July 19th, 2002. He said, for 8th level bodhisattvas and arhats, so there are three types of beings, right? The two types of arhats and the 8th level bodhisattvas, the 9th, 10th level bodhisattvas. Phenomenal things are kunsop dempa, but not dempa. What does that mean? Kunsop dempa means conventional truths, but they are not true. They are not dempa. They are kunsop dempa. They are true for a jerk. They know they're true for the obscuring mind, but they are not actually true. That's what Geshe is saying here. For them, mere kunsop, they're mere samvriti, mere conventionalities, you can say, or mere falsities. They are not dempa. For them, they are kunsop dempa. They know that they are truth for people who have an obscured mind. What kunsop dempa means for them, what they see looks like dempa, but it is only based on kunsop, only based on samvriti, only based on the obscuring mind. Or timuk denzin, that means the obscuring mind is this moha, this kind of ignorance that's grasping to, what do we say, kunsop? Timuk tenzin, yeah, that grasps to true existence. That's the obscuring mind, the grasping to true existence. For that kind of mind, it is true. For those Arya beings, these three types of beings, they are not true, but they still know that they are, for ordinary beings, for the obscuring mind of ordinary beings, they are true. So they know that they are kunsop dempa. So then your intrepid commentator here, at that time, I raised my hand in the class and I said, this is George says, you said before that the learner Aryas, the Loba, before the 8th Bhumi, well, maybe that George was wrong at that time. Are the Aryas on the pure grounds also learners, Paul? Snehi's nodding yes.
Yes, because there's no more learner is a Buddha.
Right. So George was wrong then. He's saying, so you said before learner Aryas, Loba, before the 8th Bhumi and before Arhatship, that are Aryas, you said before they know that it is not true. This is a little bit like Sean's question. So why does he specifically here say that it has to be, and Geshe just came in and he said, because the reason earlier said, Tempa lompa mepe chiro. So because these three types of beings on the pure grounds and the arhats and so forth, they no longer have the lompa. Remember what that meant? Paul, do you remember? It's sort of like this strong confidence that things are truly existent. What does it say here? Don dampa lompa mepa chiro. Before that, before the grounds of these three beings, the arhats and the pure grounds, before that you have some denzin, some grasping to true existence. Even though they directly realize shunyata, they've realized it in meditative equipoise, they still have some denzin left, right? It might be very subtle. Here, these three pakpas, these three aryas, the arhats, the two arhats, the bodhisattvas, 8th level and up, have completely removed denzin, true grasping to true existence. So personal way, no dempa drupa denzin, they do not have a grasping to phenomena as being truly existent. The way of the mind, in their mind, not any part of Dempar, Drupar, Zimba. That is the main reason for them. They are only kunsopa. They're only false. Okay, we've beaten that horse till it's now needs to lie down and rest. Okay, is it making sense? No one's nodding, but okay.
So, Venerable George, so just to make sure I
Okay.
understand, so you're saying that because they still have grasping at true existence on the first through seventh grounds, they would not perceive conventional phenomena as mere conventionalities.
They would sometimes, but they would still have, put it the other way, they would still grasp sometimes the phenomena as being inherently existent, truly existent.
So there's that only on the pure grounds, they exclusively view them as mere conventionalities.
Right, right. That's the point here. Okay, so let's continue. So Jimba's translation says, as for the latter part of this citation, so again, that was the quotation from the Basham. So this latter part starts, emptiness, the nature of these merely conventional entities is the ultimate for them. As for the latter part of the citation, it states that the ultimate nature of things, which is the nature of dependently originated conventional truths. Why does he say that? The nature of things. So what are those things? When you're talking about emptiness, you always have to have a substratum that you're considering to be empty of true existence. So what is that substratum? That's dependently originated conventional truths. What is the nature of dependently conventional truths? Is the ultimate for the Aryas. To assert that one in the same thing, for instance, a vase, for example, is itself a conventional truth for ordinary beings and an ultimate truth for the Aryas, contravenes the meaning of the text. Such an utterance reveals an ignorance of the fact that to establish something as a conventional truth entails that it is negated first as true within the perspective of that cognition. Oh, dry bones. What is that famous? Them bones, them dry bones. Is that how it goes? Them bones, them dry bones? Or yeah. So yeah, that should be our slogan.
Old bones.
Say again.
I thought it was old bones.
Old bones, yeah, maybe the old bones, yeah, maybe. Well, I want to rephrase it because Geshe Zopa, when he taught these courses in philosophy, minute details, he said, it's like chewing on dry bones. Most people are not interested. They want the juicy meat, and if not that, at least the bone that still has some marrow and and grease on it, get some flavor. But dry bones, you have to be a real Buddhist, adherent to be chewing dry bones. Okay, good. Them bones, them old bones, maybe, but them bones, them dry bones is my reinterpretation of that. So let's see how Jeffrey translated that. So as for the latter part of this citation, it states that the ultimate nature of things, this is Jimpa, which is the nature of dependently originated conventional truths, is the ultimate for the Aryas, right? The emptiness of conventional things. What about the emptiness of emptiness? Wouldn't that, here it states that the ultimate nature of things, which is the nature of dependently originated conventional truths. What about the emptiness of emptiness? Is emptiness a conventional truth? Snehi says yes.
I take that back.
With George, it has to be, otherwise we couldn't talk about it. Correct?
And so, yeah. So let's say, yeah, when we say there are two truths, all phenomena are either conventional truths or ultimate truths, right? So how about emptiness? Is emptiness a conventional truth or an ultimate truth? Something can't be simultaneously a conventional truth and an ultimate truth. Oh,
Can I say it this
yeah,
way
of
that
course.
that emptiness conventionally exists, and within conventional existence, it's an ultimate truth.
Okay, so when you express emptiness in words or thoughts, it is a conventionality, right? It is a conventional truth. But emptiness itself is an ultimate truth. Okay, so anyway, it's something to think about in this sense. Let's read what Jeffrey said here, how he translated that. With respect to the meaning of the latter sentence, so Jimpa said to the, how did he say? As for the latter part of the citation, I like Jimpa's translation there better. With respect to the latter part of the citation, and Jeffrey has in brackets, points out what the latter part of the citation actually says. He quote, that which is their nature, emptiness, is the ultimate for them. So that's for these three types of being. That which is their nature, emptiness, is the ultimate for them. So with respect to that, it indicates that the nature of noumenon, what is noumenon? We don't have Diana here, who's usually one of our good English dictionary people. What does noumenon mean? Does anyone know?
It's true nature. So it's phenomenon and noumenon, right? So
Noumenon, not
yeah.
noum. Okay, noumenon.
I think that's Jeffrey's translation of like deini or chuni, reality, the reality of them, something like that.
Right. So in his footnote here, he says that means chuni or dharmata. But just talking about noumenon in general, what does that mean? What does that word mean in English?
I think it just means it's underlying truth or it's underlying reality.
So you have phenomena and noumena. So how are they related? Phenomena and noumena.
My Western philosophy is not as good as it should be. I think it's analogous to sort of like the Platonic thought, right? Where you have the sort of what appears to be real, but then its ultimate nature.
Yeah, what's actually behind. So in this case, that makes sense in the Buddhist context also, because you could say that phenomena here is or phenomenal things, as Geshe Zopa used to say, that means conventionalities, how they appear, and noumena is how they actually exist. So that means the Jimford translated as noumena as ultimate nature of things. So chuni or dharmata. So anyway, with respect to the meaning of the latter part of the citation, it indicates that the nature of noumena, or the ultimate nature of things, of conventional dependent arisings, is the ultimate for superiors. So it was here that I was asking you about emptiness. Does emptiness fall into that? Emptiness of emptiness? It indicates that the nature of noumenon, of the nature, the noumenon of conventional dependent arisings, is the ultimate nature for superiors. Is emptiness a dependent arising? Snehi says yes. What do you think, Stephen? Is emptiness a dependent arising?
Yes, I agree with Snehi.
That's always a good choice.
Emptiness is a permanent phenomenon, so it can't be a dependent arising.
Who said
Right?
that?
Paul.
Oh, it can't be a dependent arising because it's permanent? You're acting as the devil's advocate here,
It
Paul.
arises on the basis of a phenomenon.
It is a dependent arising. Even emptiness is a dependent arising, right? You agree, Paul? You were just acting as the devil's advocate to get a little juice going here. Okay. So emptiness is a dependent arising. So the emptiness is included here. It indicates that the nature of nomenon, or the reality, that the ultimate nature of conventional dependent arisings is the ultimate for superiors. That's what is ultimate, not just what for ordinary beings, how things appear to be truly existent. For them, that's ordinary beings, that's ultimate. Hence, to propound the opposite to Chandrakirti's text, that just one base, such as a pot, is an obscurational truth, conventional truth in relation to common beings, and an ultimate truth in relation to superiors, is the talk of someone who does not know that in the perspective of the awareness of an awareness for which something is an obscurational truth, it must be negated that that object is a truth. So how can you posit something to be a conventional truth or an obscurational truth or a truth for a jerk? From your perspective, if you're saying that that's a conventional truth, an obscurational truth, you have to have realized that it is not actually true. You have to have negated that the object is a truth. You have to have realized that it is a falsity that is only true for an obscuring mind. That's what's being said here. Okay, let's go on. So we've got time maybe for just one more section here. Next, reading Jimpa. Next, the commentary reads. So again, this is quoting for the Basham. This is all in commentary to verse, I think, 628. I may be mistaken. Maybe it's 629. I think 628 or 629. Next, the commentary.
628, Venerable Church.
628. So the commentary, still, there's a lot of commentary in the Basham after the Karakas 628. What is ultimate for the Buddhas is true nature alone. Because it never deceives, it is the ultimate truth and is known by Buddhas alone. Or as Jeffrey translates on page 254, the ultimate for Buddhas is just the nature. So the Tibetan says, Sangye Namki Dondamba ni Rangshin ni Yinshing. Rangshin, so it's just the nature, the svabhava. The ultimate for the Buddhists is just the svabhava. So generally, earlier there was a lot of discussion about this, that there's no svabhava, there's no nature of phenomena, right? But in some contexts, Nagarjuna mentioned the ultimate truth is actually the nature of things, the svabhava. So svabhava or nature can mean the ultimate nature in certain contexts. So the ultimate for the Buddhists is just the nature of things. And it, moreover, is just non-deceptive. What does that mean? It exists the way that it appears, due to which it is the ultimate truth. So truths in general have to exist the way that they appear. That was kind of a basic definition of truth. Things are true if they exist the way that they appear. It is the ultimate, due to which it is the ultimate truth. It is that which is known by them themselves individually. Or as Chimpa said, it is known by the Buddhas alone. I'm not sure where he gets alone. Uh, let's see. Deyang lua mepa niki dondamba dempa yinla deni denamgi soso rangriki soso rangi rikpa jawa. So soso rangi rikpa. That usually means it is known in your own personal experience. Maybe that's why Jimpa is translating it is known by the Buddhas alone. But there's no thing about being alone by the Buddhas alone in the actual translation. Okay, the note there is just giving the place that you find that text. Okay. So that's the quotation. So now Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary says, the word alone, oh, I know, yeah. It is the ultimate truth that is known by the Buddhas alone. Well,
I think it's the first alone. Ultimate truth for the Buddhists is true nature alone. Is that?
So Jeffrey's translation says the term just in just the nature. Is that in that quotation there? Where is it? Just the nature. The ultimate for Buddhists is just the nature, right? Or the nature alone.
So I think in the Rang Shin Ni, he's talking about the Ni.
Right. The term just or alone is not the final word alone in Jimpa's translation just before the number 455 footnote. It's not talking about that. It's the first alone in the first part of that. The term alone in it is true nature alone, well, that clarifies it, is a term of exclusion. It excludes in that it demonstrates how the ultimate of the Buddhas is unlike the shifting characteristics of the other Aryas, for whom the ultimate truth is posited as absent of dualistic perceptions during meditative equipoise, but characterized by dualistic perceptions in post-equipoise. It is unlike the shifting characteristics, okay? Thus, it suggests that what is ultimate for Buddhas constitutes the ultimate nature of things, which is the true nature upon which Buddhas remain equipoised at all times. There's never a moment when the Buddhas are not perceiving the ultimate nature of all phenomena, while simultaneously perceiving the conventional aspects of all those phenomena, simultaneously. The purpose of the statement, quote, because it never deceives, is to define the meaning of truth as that which abides as undeceiving from the perspective of seeing suchness, so as to demonstrate how such ultimate truth does not constitute true existence. Okay, something to think about. Let's read what Jeffrey says here. The term just in just the nature, or as Jimpa translated, the nature alone, Hopkins says, is a delineator, or Jimpa had said, is a term of exclusion, delineator. What does that mean? With respect to what it eliminates or delineates, the ultimate, which is the ultimate for Buddhas, is not the ultimate of other superiors that alternate, for instance, between the nature that is without appearance in meditative equipoise and the nature that involves appearance in states subsequent to meditative equipoise. To me, that part's more clear. So it's separating the ultimate for the Buddhists for the ultimate from the other Aryas, because for the other Aryas, what does it say? Is not the ultimate of other superiors that alternates for instance, between the nature that is without appearance in meditative equipoise and the nature that involves appearance in states subsequent to meditative equipoise. Rather, it is the noumenon, the nature in which the Buddha is always set in meditative equipoise. With respect to the meaning of, quote, it moreover is just not, it is just non-deceptive, due to which it is ultimate truth. With respect to that, quote unquote, Chandrakirti is explaining that abiding non-deceptively in the perspective of perceiving suchness is the meaning of truth. Chandrakirti explaining that abiding non-deceptively in the perspective of perceiving suchness is the meaning of truth, asserting that the truth of ultimate truth does not indicate true existence, true establishment. Okay, we're going to end there because the next section that will start next week is a new section, and it's said ultimate truth. So were we just talking about ultimate truth now? What have we been talking about for the last probably 6 or 8 classes? Actually, we've been talking about conventional truth. First of all, we're talking about, in talking about conventional truth, ultimate truth would come in sometime. But next time we're going to start with ultimate truth. But on Monday, we'll go over this again, this and also in next class, this last section here, where let's say, reading Jeffrey, with respect to the meaning of it, moreover, is just non-deceptive, due to which it is an ultimate truth. Chandrakirti is explaining that abiding non-deceptively in the perspective of perceiving suchness is the meaning of truth. What I was saying is, generally, truth means that which abides the way that it appears. Here it's saying that the meaning of truth is abiding non-deceptively, that could be the same, in the perspective of perceiving suchness. So he's limiting the meaning of, real meaning of truth only to the way that emptiness appears. Well, anyway, see if there's any contradiction there. How are your teeth? Having chewed these, gnawed at these dry bones or old bones, for Anna's sake in Liverpool. Any questions? How are we doing? Suvansh, you look a little bit bemused. Are you okay? You have some doubt? You're okay. Okay. Anna? Lena? LaCroix? Okay, you're okay. Snehi? Everything good? Yeah. So we need some more discussion about this, thinking about this. What, any particular thing that's vexing you, Snehi?
I think it was this last paragraph you read. I really need to think about that some more.
Okay. And we'll and those of you who have time on Monday, we have a discussion group, but we will meet again next week. Hopefully, a couple of people will be back. Richard is off somewhere. I can't remember where. Doris told me he had written to her. He's where?
Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. And John is off, and a couple of other people are off. So let's dedicate the virtues that we created, the 2 collections of merit and wisdom. Gewadi Nyurduda Lama Sangye Drugyurne Roa Chikyam Malupa Dei Sala Gopasho Jangchub Semcho Rimboche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyuche Ke Wanampa Me Paya Gone Gong Tu Pelwasho. And our prayer was, in a sense, dedicating our merits for the actualization of the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's reincarnation. Peerless teacher and assembly of children of the conquerors, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, Losang, victorious Losang, referring to Losang Drapa, Lama Tsongkhapa, the spiritual father and your spiritual sons, together with your lineage lamas, all the objects of refuge of the infinite realms, please now bestow virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In upholding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you, Lama Zopa, wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for both the welfare of the conqueror's teachings and for the welfare of mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. At that point, I was bereft. I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths of the oceanic blessings of the Triple Gem and the great waves of bodhicitta of the Bodhisattvas, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us fortunate disciples. Finally, for all our spiritual friends, you who are my eyes for viewing all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation, engaging with skillful means, moved through mercy, which is both love and compassion, illuminating spiritual friends, I make this request, please live long and stable lives. And so thank you very much. Sister Nadine is still in Sri Lanka. She's hopefully getting up to the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy in the next week. Maybe not. Maybe she gets there. The tooth is the left incisor. I guess that's the upper tooth, right? This one from the Buddha that was retrieved. Yeah, yeah. Don, show again. Which one? Yeah, that one. Was retrieved by the Bhikshuni Khema. Who knows who Khema was? Khema. Louise, you don't know Khema? Bhikshuni. So there, when the Buddha became, founded the Sangha, first there were only monks, and it was only after being petitioned by his what do you call it? The mother who became his mother after his actual mother died. What is that called? Substitute mother? I can't remember.
Stepmother.
Stepmother.
A stepmother, and his wife, along with other nuns, another ladies, they asked to be ordained. It was only then that, under the urging of Ananda, that he he instituted the female aspect of the Sangha. But amongst the female Sangha, the foremost in wisdom was the Bhikshuni Khema, who had been a wife of King Bimbisara. She was a very beautiful woman and at first very vain about her appearance and everything. And Bimbisara was a disciple of Buddha and urged her to visit the Buddha, and she was uninterested because she thought, the monks and everything, he won't appreciate my beauty, he might put me down. But Bimbisara told her to visit the monastery in I think Bamboo Grove. And it was so beautiful that she would find it interesting. So she went there thinking that the Buddha would not be around to put her down. And he was there, of course. And he showed an attendant to the Buddha, a female far more beautiful than Khema, and who, during the course of just a couple of minutes, appeared to age and skin sagging and parts sagging of the body and finally teeth falling out and dying. And at that point, she realized, because of the store of merit from previous lives, impermanence is, I hate to use this word, is a bitch, is or they say karma is a bitch, and she became an Arya and attained arhatship and became the foremost in wisdom of the female disciples, like Shariputra was among the male disciples who was foremost in wisdom. So after the Buddha was cremated, some of the relics were divided up into 8 parcels originally and divided to different kingdoms and so forth. But she was able to get in there first and get the left incisor. And eventually she came to Sri Lanka and brought that tooth there. And although there are other tooth relics purported to be in other places, the one in Kandy is universally accepted to be the actual tooth of the Buddha. So that relic is sort of like the incredible possession of Sri Lanka, guarded in many, many ways. So hopefully Nadine will be able to say the same prayers again there for our class in the presence of the tooth, make offerings, and so forth. So I look forward to seeing some of you on Monday, at least next Saturday here in class. Take care.
Thank you, Venerable George.
Yeah, thank you all.
Venerable George.
Thank you.